So last year I made this video, and it kind of blew up, so here's part 2. For those of you who don't know, this video is about the cylinder post by the Reddit user SmartCalendar1874, in which the user has claimed that he has gotten a cylinder stuck in a can of mini M&Ms, and he's asking for people's help to get it out. Our mission is to investigate what this cylinder could be. Under the last video, we got a great deal of comments telling us the things that we might have missed in our original experiment. Our goal today is to use some of these comments to improve our methods and get closer to uncovering the truth of the cylinder. The first comment we looked into was this one, which had over 4,700 likes and suggested that the cylinder was a corn cob that the user was trying to butter up and prepare to eat. A corn cob fits both the length and circumference requirements, which the user of the Reddit post detailed in the replies, so we decided to give it a try. Like last time, the first step was to microwave and mash a banana and add some butter to it to put inside the mini M&M's tube before we tested any of our hypotheses. So, after making the banana butter concoction, putting it inside the mini M&M's tube for lubrication, Jack decided to give it a shot.
It doesn't really work.
It doesn't really work.
Now, the mathematicians among us may be familiar. Shut up. Now, the mathematicians among us may be familiar with the fact that if something is bigger than a hole, it may not go in.
The problem is, even though the corn fits the size requirements for the cylinder once it's already in the tube, the cylinder has to be inserted into the tube and then grow, and corn can't really do that.
Oh, it's juicing all over the table.
Bro, alright.
Alright, we're done. Experiment done.
It's not the corn.
It's not the corn.
It's not corn. The next comment we looked at said that the problem with our original experiment was that we didn't heat up the initial concoction, which allowed it to be much easier to pull out than it otherwise would have. This user cited something called Charles's Law, which Jack can explain.
So, one genius commenter had the idea that if we had perhaps heated the air inside the balloon, it would expand more. And they cited something called Charles's Law. Charles's Law is an extension of what's called the ideal gas law, which is spelled PV equals nRT. The P stands for pressure, V is volume, the N is the amount of gas we have, R is a constant, and T is the temperature. So when the temperature goes up, the pressure and the volume must also go up. Since the amount of air inside the balloon is not changing in our cylinder experiment, we can just ignore the N here. R is a constant, so we don't really care about it. So, this is how we get basically Charles's Law, PV equals T. And that means that when temperature goes up, pressure and volume need to go up. One of them needs to go up, right? What this commenter is predicting is that volume will go up when temperature goes up. But the issue with this is, if you do a diagram of our cylinder here, this is our cylinder, and this is our tube, there's not actually much room for it to expand, right? It can go out against the walls. So this V will actually be held constant. So, in order to solve when T goes up, and V isn't changing at all, then P must go up. So, instead of growing the balloon like the commenter would say, it's actually just going to raise the pressure over here, and this V is not going to change at all because it can't, it's in a box. And this was your math segment.
The problem with our initial experiment is that gases are highly compressible, so when we filled the balloon with air and pushed more air inside, it didn't actually increase the volume inside the cylinder. It just made the pressure increase. So we tried the same experiment again, but filled the balloon with water rather than air. This is a step in the right direction because while water can change shape, it can't change volume at temperature. Unfortunately, this yielded the same results. Though we were able to push on the balloon, we couldn't actually make it expand inside the tube with just our hands. The thing that's correct about this comment is that gases do expand when they're heated. Unfortunately, we just don't have the equipment to safely heat this concoction without melting the mini M&M's tube. What we do have the equipment for is putting our concoction in extreme cold in the freezer. However, almost all substances shrink when they're put in cold environments, which is exactly the opposite of what we're going for. But fortunately for us, there's one notable exception to that rule, which is water. For reasons that are beyond me, water expands by almost 10% when it turns into ice, and Smart Calendar 1874 didn't actually specify whether the change in temperature was an increase or a decrease. So it's entirely plausible that this user just took some banana and butter, microwaved them and mashed them up, stuck them in a mini M&M's tube, and then tried to put his favorite water balloon in there and freeze it, only to come back later and, to his dismay, find that he couldn't take it out. So that's what we did. We packed as much of the water balloon as we could into the tube, froze it for a few hours, and then tried to pull it out. Initially, it seemed impossible to remove. We thought we might have found an alternative explanation for the cylinder, as we had sought out to find.
This may be stuck.
Nonetheless, we decided to try and pull as hard as we could. And just when all hope seemed lost...
Oh!
Part of it? Were there multiple chunks?
Okay.
part of our cylinder came out. We decided to keep trying, and sure enough...
Oh, yeah.
Oh. It was all banana. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so...
Alright.
It's possible.
It's possible. It got out.
Despite the immense pressure that water can exert when it turns into ice, our cylinder was still able to be removed. And while water turning into ice is a powerful force, it's important to remember that it only expands by 9%. So for this cylinder to truly get stuck, it would have to expand by a lot more. Thanks for watching. If you like stuff like this, consider subscribing. If you have any suggestions as to what I should do next, let me know down in the comments. Peace.